Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the September 15th Education Meeting of the Board. I just want to make sure we don't have any. Before we get started, I'd like to ask if anyone would like to speak to an agenda item only. If you do, please come sign in with Ms. LaPera. There'll be opportunity to speak on any issue at the end of the meeting. So is there anyone who would like to speak now? Okay, then we will move on, and I will turn it over to Dr. Marseille.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. First, I want to start by saying that we've had a great opening day in welcoming staff back on the 26th. And for those who haven't had the opportunity, we welcome them back in dance and song. And you will see that video on our website, so I encourage you to check that out. Obviously, we welcome over 8,000 students and 1,600 faculty and staff on September 2nd. We're excited to have them back. I want to speak to some highlights and some congratulations before I move into our next items. But we wanted to congratulate our bus driver, John Welsh, who took second place at the National School Transportation Association's 44th Annual School Bus Driver International Safety Competition. John joined 100 of the best drivers throughout the United States and Canada in Charleston, South Carolina, to compete for this year's coveted crown. This is the third time and the second consecutive year that John finished as a national runner. So congratulations to him and to the transportation department, all the work that they do. Also in highlight and recognition is Bala Cynwyd Middle School was well represented among the winners in the 2014 Philadelphia Young Playwrights Festival. As 4 students' works garnered awards out of more than 750 submissions in this year's competition. Ned Wilson, now in 9th grade at Lower Marion High School, earned the first place honors for his sharp, witty comedy, The Nerd Who Wanted Friends. I did say it was sharp and witty, which will be part of the professional performance in October. In addition, we wanted to congratulate Harrington student Dan Liu for accepted to the 2014 National Association for Music Education All-National Honor Assembly. Dan will represent Harrington, the orchestra, performing on violin under the baton of Gerald Swartz, conductor of the Seattle Symphony. The festival will take place October 26th through the 29th in Nashville, Tennessee. So congratulations to all those, and wanted to highlight their accomplishments. I did want to. Can I start with that? Can I move forward to the presentation? So I'm going to switch seats a little bit. I'm going to move to the other podium because I wanted to talk briefly about where we are with our strategic plan to give the board and the community an update. I had to do this, another video. I'm on a roll, so we're welcoming back.
Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought
as you can see, we're extremely excited to have our students back. As those were just some pictures of the last week of students returning, so we're excited and continue to be. I wanted to briefly give an update to the board and the public around where we are with our strategic plan. I do have some guests who are part of the steering committee who wanted to speak briefly, and that all depends on how quickly I go through this process. So we'll give you some updates so they can come up and share their experience throughout this long process that we started in December, engaged in this conversation. So we've been committed and continue to develop a long-term strategic plan that not only talks about where we are 2 or 3 years, but 5 to 10 years down the road. And we wanted to make sure that within this plan, it speaks to the entire community, and we believe that we've done some great work to ensure that that takes place. And many of you understand that this theory U that we've been using to model our conversation, and that through this process we travel from left to right in our thinking and in our doing, where we spend a lot of time just really observing, documenting, getting information, letting go of some traditions, letting go of the past, and then thinking about where it is that we want to be as a community and as a district, and then embracing that and letting that come. And part of that right side of the U is the challenge of theory U, is that oftentimes there's a tendency to retreat, because the unknown is a very scary thing. Moving into uncharted waters is risky, but we really believe that those risks outweigh the good moving forward. So we spent a lot of time engaging in conversation. The last time the steering committee met was in May, and that was part of, and what you see there is the pictures of the team, some members of the team, and really a project that allowed us to say, what is the current state of the district? What does it look like now? And where do you see the future 5 to 10 years? And that really helped to shape some of the ongoing dialogue that we've had. Yes?
I'm sorry. You can't skip that picture in order to explain what it is.
The one on the right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's okay. You're being a good student. So there was a number of props that were provided to us, and we had to depict using that to the right what the current state of the district is right now. So there's too many to point out, but I want to point out a couple, right? And part of that, on the left-hand side, you see 2 Play-Doh containers, and you see this individual holding an apple. Well, that little character is Dracula. And what that individual, what that team said is that there seems to be this attempt from federal or state to kind of really hover over school districts and not provide them with the autonomy that teachers need to provide the real type of inquiry-based instruction that they like to deliver. And they felt that obviously money played a large role in that process. You see some dollar bills there. But each of those represented a symbol of either the community perceptions in terms of that. And what you saw was this linear path. You see 2 arrows of caricatures that are being funneled into the traditional schoolhouse. The idea that there's no individualization in the learning process, and the idea that we want to change that across the board. This is one of 4, I believe 4 or 5 representations of what currently, using the models you had, could you paint a picture of what it looked, the current landscape, and what it what it could be moving forward. And the left kind of changes that dynamics. And the first thing you see in the left is we removed Harrisburg from the equation in terms of that process. No other entities that tend to, we believe, confine some of our practices. So we did spend a lot of time getting together and really pulling some of the work that this community has done over the last several months. And part of that process is putting together all of that information that was shared, and the steering team having the job of how do we translate that into written or spoken word. And they did a phenomenal job in that process and passed that torch, for a lack of a better term, to a much smaller team, which was the writing team that met over the summer and took these particular statements and refined those statements that led up to our first meeting that we had with the steering team since May was September 10th. And that meeting, we got together and reviewed what the writing team put together as a synthesis of the conversations that has been happening over the last 5 or 6 months, conversations that took place in steering committees and focus groups, and developed what we believe to be really bold statements. And we believe in this quote, freedom lies in being bold, and that the direction that we'd like to move in, we believe is extremely bold and is not conforming, but leads the way in which we would like to. So there was 5 really core bold statements that are currently being refined that we will share with the board, and you'll see some dates pretty soon around redefining success, thinking about the way in which we deliver in instruction, our continued commitment to professional learning and what that looks like 5 to 10 years, and this idea about continue that effort around student-driven, what truly motivates and engages and drives student learning, and strengthen our ties with the community and partnerships, community in a much more meaningful way than we've done in the past. And part of that has to do with not being bold just for the sake of being bold, but being bold because that's what we believe. And that those 5 statements really speak to the simplicity of the goals, which is extremely important moving forward, and obviously something that speaks to everyone that we can call our own, that no matter what discipline you're in, you can reach out to that document and it speaks to you as guiding light. So in that process, we wanted to make sure that there were really 3 distinctive areas to focus on. One is this comprehensive plan, which is a large compliance document that has to be submitted. And then we wanted to make sure that we had a strategic plan that spoke to the community, that spoke to our teachers, and that identified those 5 core areas and speak to some of those strategies within those areas. But then we wanted to fine-tune that as well and decide that, think about a design plan, and want to make sure that we provide a system in which a teacher, a student, community member, a faculty member, a teacher, an administrator can easily have a document that speaks to our work without having to go through 100 and some odd pages in terms of what some of the comprehensive plan documents have looked like in the past. So once we've gone through this this process, one of the things that we have to make sure is that moving forward, there are barriers that, or challenges that we face in terms of preparing the plan, for implementation. And fiscal readiness is an example in terms of if we indeed believe in moving in this direction, are we prepared? How do we better prepare ourselves in order to make that happen? So those are opportunities that will take place between now throughout not only end of 2014, but also extend to long after we submitted the plan on November 30th. Moving forward, you see a timeline that speaks to not necessarily all of our dates, but some key dates that are extremely important across the board. So the leadership team is meeting soon to kind of synthesize the information and the feedback that was given to us on September 10th, and we've already began doing that, and we have a meeting tomorrow to spend time with that. And then we invite our board members into that conversation to say, this is where we are. This is the language in which the community has spoken, the teachers have spoken, and get their input on their thoughts. We're going to ask principals once again to reflect on that document along with staff. We have put aside several board meetings moving forward to give the board and the community some updates on that process. And October 20th is our window where it's the last day that we have to put that document or series of documents, specifically the comprehensive plan, but the strategic plan as well, online for public feedback. For those, all of us should be familiar with the phase in which the special education plan took place. So understanding that there are opportunities for that as well, and then that non-negotiable, that November 30th is an opportunity where it's our last day to submit our comprehensive plan to PDE. So once we submit that plan to PDE on November 30th, if I can take you back to this slide, throughout that process after November 30th, those are some of the challenges and conversations that we have to have moving forward. 5 to 6 months after the plan is submitted, it goes into effect. We're hoping that, and we haven't identified a particular date yet, but we really want to reconvene the steering committee in the spring to engage in conversation, to share not only the final product, but to talk about what progress have we made in terms of preparing the landscape for the implementation of the plan. So before I take any questions, I really wanted to invite some of our members of our steering team who are here to talk to you a little bit. We have Ms. Walker, who's been an integral part of our work, Ms. Levin, who's here to talk briefly. McMaster is here. And Dr. Nichols is here as well. So I think it's extremely important to hear from them, because this process is very different than the process we undertook several years ago. And I want to take a few minutes and just share their experience throughout the process. So who's the lucky person who's going to come up first?
I'll go first.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Sarah McMaster. I am a primary literacy specialist at Kinwood Elementary. I'm a transfer to Lower Merion. I worked in another school district for 7 years before coming here, and this is my 4th year in the district. The strategic plan process for me was really wonderful. I got a chance to get to know community members, other teachers in other buildings, parents, administrators, and even some students. And that was really neat for me because I got to know a little bit more of Lower Merion than I had known before, actually a lot more. So the process was a chance for us all to really break down barriers amongst the different stakeholder groups and have some real conversations about what mattered to all of us. And one of the things that we didn't get caught up on were the what ifs or the we can'ts. And that wasn't necessarily to be overly idealistic, but it was really to be truthful to what we believed in and where we think we could all help to lead our school district to with this plan. One of the things that we did during our process was go on learning journeys where we all had an opportunity to go out into the community and the area around us and visit innovative businesses, schools, and organizations, places where communities have been built upon trust and organizations have really been sticking to their core values. My group went to a place in Philadelphia called Indy Hall, and it started out as a co-working facility, but they've really become a close-knit community, and they have a thriving membership, and it was just so inspiring to be a part of that. I also was able to participate in an immersion experience. That was where groups of individuals on the steering committee had a chance to go to different schools in the district and see what it's like in those schools. I went to Harriton. That was the first time I sat in a chemistry class, and that was really interesting for me. It's been a long time since I've been in chemistry, especially since I'm a literacy person. Science is not my forte. So, we also had people come to the school that I work in, and that was exciting too, to see members of the steering committee see what it's like every day at Kinwood. The whole process really made me proud to be a member of this community, and it made me proud to work here. What we're holding on to right now are our 5 bold statements that Dr. Marseille talked about, and that was a process. We wrote down our core values and revised them and had a lot of dialogue about what mattered to us. And I stand behind all of them. It's definitely the way that we all want Lower Merion School District to be. And something that I personally am going to try to do as an ambassador for the plan is make sure that my actions every day when I'm working with children and interacting with my colleagues are, that my actions speak for themselves and that I'm, standing behind the values and what we believe in the plan based on what I'm doing every day. It was a great opportunity. It was a wonderful experience, and I'm really excited about it. And I hope that we really stick to what we believe in and follow through on what we set out to do. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. When I was asked to join the Strategic Plan Committee, I had a couple very key goals. One was that it was extremely important to me that as a parent, I represented the entire parental community voice. So we had community meetings, and I went to everyone so that I could hear what everyone that came out to tell us something had to say. And I tried to keep that as my main focus through this entire process so that I didn't lose any of the things that anyone that had voiced concern about, and that it all got addressed and filtered into what we were doing. The second thing that was extremely important to me was for us to come out with a plan where every child is represented and promoted and really propelled to success, regardless of their learning style, regardless of their background, regardless of any of the different things that can divide communities. So those were my really 2 large goals in participating, and I really feel like both of those goals were met to my satisfaction, which is that's a pretty tall order. So the thing that I really loved about the way we did this, and kudos to Wagner and everyone else and Liz and Marie who developed the style that we used for our meetings and such, was that we had every group represented. We had parents, we had students, we had administration, we had teachers, we had board members. everyone was there and we all had equal voice. So we really pulled from each direction for every decision that we made. So I feel like we really came up with a very comprehensive plan that represents our entire community. So I guess I don't have a lot more to say than that. I think we developed some really serious, bold statements. It will require some big changes, but they are definitely the changes that represent what the community was asking for. And it will definitely, I feel, propel us very nicely into the future. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Manera. I was going to say, could you give us your name, because some of us don't know your name?
I'm sorry, Manera Walker.
Hello, I'm Gail Levin-Simon. I'm a parent and I'm an educator. I'm an informal educator, though. I develop educational curriculum and content in children's television. So I'm often involved in strategic processes about a project, like where does it fit in the landscape of children's media, and what are parenting trends and child development and educational policy. I was most recently part of the Bala House Montessori strategic plan as a member of the board. And I found this process, led by Liz and Marie, to just be extraordinary. They created a safe environment for 69 stakeholders, which seems like an absurd amount of people, but it was phenomenal the way they created a community out of these 69 diverse stakeholders. And in that safe environment, the 69 of us could air our concerns and articulate what's good about the Lmsd community. I was interested in being involved in this because I was confused by and honestly pretty discontented with the level of anxiety that I felt was around the Lmsd community, and a hyper focus on safety and a hyper focus on comparison in this community, when what I saw was a rich, and I mean that in every sense of the word, a rich, safe, gorgeous, and significantly above average community. I mean, we moved here from out of state to be a part of Lower Merion, and I was disappointed by the anxiety and the stress that I felt. And my children were not engaged. I have 2 kids at Kenwood. So this involvement in the strategic plan process uncovered for me the hope and creativity and excitement about learning that this community has, but that has really been hidden by the burden of standards. And so really, in closing, I'm grateful that I had this opportunity to be a part of the strategic plan, and I feel that I'm a committed ambassador to this strategic plan and to the Lower Merion School District community.
Thank you very much, Gail.
Hello, I'm Rachel Nichols, and I am a teacher at Bala Kenwood, and I'm also a parent of a student at Penn Wynne and a parent of a student who went to Penn Wynne and Bala Kenwood Middle School. And when I volunteered to be on this steering committee, I volunteered as a teacher when we got the email, and I volunteered as a parent when I saw it online. And so when I was selected, I wasn't really sure why I was picked. And at first I thought, should I ask? Should I be a teacher? Should I be a mom? I didn't know what to do. And then I realized that they're really intertwined. I think I know that, but I was able to voice my opinion and my dreams and my hopes on both levels at all times, and I'm really grateful for that opportunity. It can be complicated being a teacher in the district where your students go, but it can also be really complicated when you're a person like myself who is very idealistic, comes up with lots of plans, likes to solve them, likes to get other people involved, and then before you know it, you have ideas going everywhere and everybody's either with you or against you. It can feel that way. But what was really cool was being part of the strategic plan process for me was kind of triangulating my personal aspirations as a professional teacher, my intellectual aspirations as an educational researcher, and my human aspirations as a mother and a community member. And it really gave me a sense that I live and work among people who are eager to be change agents, are interested in reform, not just for reform's sake, but in order to build on the strong foundations that we have, and also to have the courage to be bold. We heard that word over and over again, but I'm grateful to Dr. Marseille for starting that way and saying, you know, this is your chance. I believe that everyone on the steering committee exercised that chance as much as we had an opportunity to. And the really cool part is about to start when we get to think about the action plan. What's it going to look like? Where is it going to go? What significant changes can be made in and around our community over the next few years? And so in closing, I just appreciate being part of this whole process, and I'm also grateful that I've been able to represent myself, my colleagues, and also my children.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time tonight to come talk to us. I thought it was extremely important that we give the public and the board just a really smidgen in terms of, we could have brought all 69 members here. You wouldn't like me so much. But I say that seriously because I think that I can speak for the 69, our last meeting, when individuals went around the room and talked about what it meant to them and the process, and they echoed the same sentiments that you heard a few minutes ago. So thank you very much for your participation. And like I'll say it again, that this is one of many legs of the race. So even though that we've done a large part, the work still continues, which is why it's extremely important that, as difficult as it is to reconvene 69 people periodically, it's important that the steering committee members know that the relationships that were formed, the bond that was created, is long-term, and we need them to be our eyes and ears to help us to continue down that path. So with that, I can take any questions from the board.
I just wanted to say thank you to especially all the folks who are here tonight who participated in the process. It sounds like the level of engagement and the diverse stakeholders that you brought to the table produced some really wonderful outcomes, and I'm really pleased to see that there's a list of 5 priority short-term items, and the #1 item on the list relates to enabling teachers to push forward on their innovative ideas and strategies, if I'm interpreting that correctly. So I think we'll be anxious to see where it all concludes. But I think this was an opportunity really for the community to come together in a very positive, constructive way about the future. And it's just great to see all the work that's happened. So thank you for the update.
I want to echo the sentiments as someone who had the pleasure of serving on behalf of the board on the committee. It was a very unique and exciting experience. So I even had the chance to be in a group with Ms. McMaster, so we had some really good dialogue. And I think it's important that as we think about next steps, that all the stakeholder concerns and aspirations are considered. So question in terms of the leadership team, Dr. Marseille, when we think about some of the perceived barriers, what are some of the things that we see on the horizon that may get in the way in terms of the next steps with some of the things that we want to walk away with regard to some of the statements that were made?
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of barriers that currently exist, right? The idea that this is a multi-year plan, which means that we are serious when we talk about being fiscally ready. So, for example, if we believe in a revolutionary curriculum, and part of that curriculum really focuses on the ability for students to transfer knowledge, the idea that courses and subjects are not just mere silos, that they move from one location to the next. The idea that we relish and support the learning that occurs in what we call interdisciplinary programs at the middle school that we've talked about tremendously, and saying we like to think about that across the board from a K through 12 continuum. A lot of that, because of that, that's going to require a lot of professional learning opportunities, which means that we have to set aside funds to ensure that, one, if we do a self-audit, are there areas that we believe within our own interdisciplinary program we need to improve, right? We take our areas of strength and identify those and say, what areas can we improve on? And then we have to think about where are best practices happening around this idea? Where are school districts seeing success? And is that success the same language in which we support as a district? So there's that research that goes into that particular process. And then the idea around being innovative, right? And let's use technology for example. Technology moves 5 times faster than we know what to do with it. And we want to make sure that in the era of innovation and issues around privacy and learning, that we balance that as well. And those are some challenges that we're going to see. And there really is that opportunity for us to begin looking at our current landscape and saying, what current challenges do we foresee moving forward? And hopefully we'll catch some of those. Others we might not, but that is the work that I want to make sure that this community and the leadership team, along with the steering committee, continues to wrestle with. Because there might be opportunities where we realize we didn't see that, right? We're like, we didn't know that that was going to be such a barrier. Let's talk together, let's come together and talk collectively how we're going to try to address those issues.
Well, thank you for the update. I think we're all looking forward to continuing these conversations and hearing the final plan, and then I guess the work begins.
Yes, yes, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. You can stick around if you like, but you don't have to.
No, you really can, because you like,
thank you.
people do that all of the time, so.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, yes. Thank you. So at this time, I wanted to, we gave a full presentation to the curriculum committee of the board around some of the focal conversations that will be taking place in the 14-15 school year. Not to create a list of work, but some seminal conversation, knowing that there is continued work from previous conversations that are embedded in those conversations. So at this time, I have asked Dr. Doria, our Director of Elementary, and Ms. Hockfield, our Director of Secondary, to put a really brief presentation together and talk briefly about some of the core conversations that we're going to have. We shared this conversation with our faculty and staff during the opening days. They were aware of some of these focal conversations prior to them leaving us in June, but we wanted to make sure that we finalize it. It was part of some of our opening statements, not only from my office, but from the principal's office as well. So I'd like to invite them and give a short presentation.
right, you ready? Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, and I want to thank the members of the Curriculum Committee of the Board. Here's a great example where I said you're always so gracious when you hear the same presentation or pieces of it. So thank you. Sarah's left, and the others have gone, but to come in tonight and to see them here and to really have a heartfelt connection. I mean, it's not just some people that I've met in a committee, but I just feel connected to the group, and I think that I know I'm a little off topic, Dr. Marseille, I just wanted to make that transition, was so powerful. And I just feel connected to the group of 69 in a way that I didn't a few months ago. And it's just so human and so authentic. So I thank you for that experience. So Ms. Hockfield and I have been given the opportunity to work this summer closely to really identify some core conversations that we want to happen in a parallel way during this initial phase of our planning as well for the strategic plan, and we'd like to share those with you today.
Great, and I'd like to echo what Dr. Doria just said. I came into the strategic planning process a little bit late, and I missed all the awesome stuff that happened last spring. I heard about it, and I saw these great groups coming into Lower Merion High School, and I was kind of trying to press my ear against the door to see what everybody was talking about. But coming in this summer was incredible. It took me a little bit to get up to speed, but by the time we had that meeting last week, I felt it, and I felt exactly what we heard tonight. So I echo all of that. Core conversations are obviously around the 5 bold statements of the strategic plan. We have to be mindful of them in everything that we're doing this year, and they're exactly what Dr. Marseille presented: redefining success, revolutionary curriculum, commitment to professional learning, student-driven schools, spirit of community. To bring some of that to light, though, today I had an experience where I was speaking with the 2 assistant principals from Bala-Cynwyd Middle School. We had an hour where we were just catching up. And one of the questions that I asked them was, tell me something really innovative that's happening in your school right now. And I think they kind of caught themselves like, should we tell her? Like, is this okay? Does this need approval from someone? I said, no, please tell me. And they told me about an awesome thing that's going on with 6th and 7th grade math. And we talked for about a half an hour about it. And I think that that's what this is, the start of all of this, is just having conversations that we may have had on the side before, but now we're having them for real, and we're talking about them, and we're sharing them. So I see this coming to light. I saw it coming to light today, and I see it continuing. So that's where we are right now.
And I agree also, it layers over the conversations that we have in meetings and team meetings, especially in areas where there may be a struggle or a challenge, and we can then add that layer of, well, what could it look like? Or how might we define success in the future? So aligned with this, a key focus or key conversation for this year is literacy across the curriculum. And we really brought this to light last year. And when we shared this information with the teachers for their 2-hour PRP, so their professional learning for elementary and secondary that's aligned to literacy across the curriculum. It's a little bit different in elementary than in middle and high, where an elementary teacher is really the teacher of all core subjects. So you're carrying that thread throughout, and you'd say, well, that's one teacher and they can make that happen, but it's really being intentional of threading it even further. What we're doing is connecting with math teachers and connecting with music teachers and art teachers, and really making sure that we're looking at reading and writing across all. And for the teachers that receive this book that they're working on their professional learning, it's looking at strategies to engage learners and have them love reading and writing. So it's not something that's being done to them, but something that's being done with them.
So at the secondary level, we chose the book Subjects Matters, written by Harvey Daniels, because it's an easy book to access. If you've ever had conversations with secondary teachers, particularly at the high school level, having that conversation about literacy with science teachers and physicists and teachers who teach calculus is not always an easy conversation, because they don't always see themselves as teachers of literacy, One of the reasons we chose this book because it talks about all subjects and how to infuse reading, writing, listening, speaking into all subject areas. We had the privilege of having Harvey Daniels here to kick off our year with our middle school teachers and then our high school teachers. And I think one of the really great things about that, we've had lots of speakers come into Lower Merion, is that what Harvey Daniels did is he spoke, and it was a compelling speech, but then he met in small groups with science teachers and math teachers and world language teachers and social studies teachers to talk about bringing literacy to light in their subjects, and that's going to continue all year. One statistic I saw today, we were talking today about STEM and about what courses kids take who then go on in college to become engineers and to become physicists and mathematicians. And the number one course that those students take at the AP level is AP Literature. And I thought that was such an interesting statistic. It's not their AP Calculus course or their AP Physics course. It's their AP Literature course that the majority of those students took more so than any other course. So I think that speaks pretty heavily to the work that we're doing this year.
Absolutely.
One again. So, a couple pictures up here. A book called Schooling for Resilience, the Educational Leadership Journal, where the cover a few months ago was Resilience and Learning, and then a picture, for those of you who don't know, of Dr. Angela Duckworth, who is one of the leading people in the world right now out of University of Pennsylvania on literature about resilience and grit and learning. And from all of these experiences, we talk a lot about how do we help students learn, all students, diverse learners, diverse students. And one of the things that plays in all the literature is helping students to be resilient, to learn from mistakes, to learn from setback. And how do the adults, what's the role that adults take in that, in helping students with those skills, with those kind of softer skills. We are really hopeful that the work in Schooling for Resilience is something that a lot of our talk is going to be around in our care committee this year, learning from strengths and building from students' strengths, and in our cultural proficiency cadres. And then we're really hopeful that we're going to welcome Dr. Duckworth and some of her researchers into our school district at our middle school level this year to be working with our 2 middle schools.
Right, and if I could share also with our cultural proficiency action plans at each school. So we're really looking at threading that sense of resilience, the work that we're studying here, and tying that in. And the second piece with that is that we're working with Diana McIntosh to also, we're almost there, develop some cultural proficiency walkthrough documents. So they're that parallel with the action plan. So it brings it really, tethers it right to the classroom.
Before you go, I just want to say that the School for Resilience, Dr. Fergus, the author of the book, we're currently working with him, hoping that he can come to the district. We're trying to align some of the care dates for him to come and engage in conversation and follow up with educators as well throughout the year. So we're really excited that it's not just about how we unpack the literature ourselves in professional learning communities, but taking some key takeaways from the author of the book to help solidify that. So we're really excited that we're in attempts to finalize some of those dates.
It's exciting. Another core conversation that began a few years ago at the secondary level and has just begun in past spring at the elementary is our professional learning communities. And we're at different places, elementary, middle, and high in this work. At the elementary level, the principals were introduced to the concept, and we're really on a continuum because some schools have professional learning communities at certain grade levels, but as a consistency across all 6 schools, all grade levels, we really haven't. So the principals were given Cultures Built to Last as a study book last spring, and we read it, and we've had book study around that to begin the conversation. And they were given a charge for this year to identify just one grade team at each elementary school. That will be our initial professional learning community and kind of model through the process. So how we work that out to be is that each month we meet with the principals and share and a sample or an example agenda for a professional learning community meeting that could happen that month. And then we share that with the one school team. And our goal is by the end of the year to have a fully functioning PLC at each elementary school. And they then become our leaders within the school to help us build that for other grade levels as well.
The PLC work, and we've certainly spoken to the board before tonight about the PLC work at the middle school and the high schools. As the slide shows, both the middle schools and both high schools have the best of both worlds, which is content level PLCs, which are English teachers working together, teachers who teach the same core subject working together around common assessments, formative assessments, examination of student work, benchmarks. And then we have interdisciplinary PLCs where teachers who teach different subjects work on a team around the students they teach. They have different focus. The interdisciplinary PLCs, while they may not be planning interdisciplinary programs together, what they're doing is they're looking and focusing on students. So we all teach the same 100 students. What do we know about them? How do we help them? What are the interventions needed? It's around 4 common questions. What do we do when, how do we know when students understand? What do we do when students do not understand? What do we do when students have surpassed where they should be? And how do we help all students? And so that's the work we're doing at all 4 secondary schools. They are all in a little bit of different places, but I'm happy as I'm here tonight to say that all 4 schools have both of these level of PLCs and are building tremendous teacher capacity in their buildings. And that's really the key to this. The administrators set the stage. They do the professional learning with the teachers, and then the teachers take charge. And that's really the beauty of this. Last week, one of the teacher leaders at Lower Merion High School and I spent an afternoon working with teacher leaders at Harriton. And that's what it's about. I can then step out, and it's the teachers who really own this process. So I think, you know, we're at a great place right now and still growing. Embedded, not moving.
Teamwork. No.
Teamwork?
Hello.
Hello.
It's okay. We can manage.
Yeah.
Here he comes to save the day.
There he is.
Oh, I got
just
it.
in
But
time.
thank
just,
you.
Just you standing up.
Proximity manager.
Our savior.
He stands up and it works. Along with all of this is what we're doing with professional learning, which in all of the professional learning community literature is about, as I just said, building teacher capacity, but then embedding professional learning within the professional learning communities. The teachers deciding, what do we need to be better? And one of the really cool things, and I'm full of stories tonight, that happened was we asked the secondary principals, so what, the 31st of October, the 4th of November, we need to start planning. And I got back within 5 minutes from the 2 middle school principals, we've already done this. Our professional learning communities told us what they needed on these days, and here's our outline for those days, and then we'll talk about how the supervisors can work with that. Right. That's the be all and end all with this, right, is that it came from the teachers and now we're just going to support to make it better. You know, the professional learning communities themselves deciding, we're going to take charge of this. We're going to tell the administrators what we need to be better, and they're going to support us in that work. So I think that's where the term even changes from professional development to professional learning, because they really are different. Right. And I think you're going to see that professional learning term over and over again in all the work we're doing.
Absolutely. And looking at it as a continuous level of growth, and almost like an action research cycle when you're really looking at data in 2 ways. One, to develop and support interventions for the students, and then another to say, what are our needs so that we can get better? So we're not just learning about a particular strategy because it's popular, but it's really aligned to what we need as learners, lifelong learners. We're going to play around with us today. There we go. So a focus or a key conversation that's across the entire district is really leading from a position of strength. And Dr. Marseille has shared that with the principals and administrators in leading from a position of strength, with educators in teaching from a position of strength, and with students of identifying your strengths and leading in that way. And that does not mean that we close our eyes and pretend that they're not areas for upgrade, but it's leading with that and saying, how can we best move forward with what we know that we do well and collaborate as educators to move forward, and then identify ways that we can support each other in areas of for upgrade.
What a wonderful way also to see kids. And that's what I love even about the picture up here, is it's what a great way to see a kid when they come into your class every day, to look at them as what do they do well,
Right.
and where are they successful, and how do we build on that. And I think Dr. Marseille really set the tone on the opening day, and I know you've heard this time and time again so far this year, but really set the tone on that opening day for this slide,
Right.
for looking at those kids that we work with every day from this rather than from what can't they do.
Sure, and the research aligned to motivation and student engagement is really about students feeling strong about their skills and not their deficits in moving forward.
There we go. And finally, last year you heard an awful lot about the Danielson Framework Teacher Effectiveness Model, Act 82. It's not that it's gone away this year at all. It's that we're building on it. And I think the reason maybe you haven't heard quite as much as last year is we're in a pretty good place. We took last year as year one. We learned from it. We've had tremendous conversation as administrators, as teacher groups, as to what were the real benefits to the Danielson framework, what were the things that tripped us up a bit, and how do we move from there. What came out resoundingly from both teachers and administrators is that the conversations about teaching and about instruction and about learning were tremendous.
And goal setting.
And
was
goal
huge.
setting.
Yeah.
You know, what maybe wasn't as great as it could be are all the forms. And that's what we're working on.
Gonna clean that up a little bit.
We're going to clean that up a bit, and I think you're going to see that coming up, that we've done a nice job in cleaning some of that up and saving all the really good parts.
Right. And really looking at, the four domains, the areas that are off stage, where we're looking at planning and we're looking at professional growth and development, which is so important, but then on stage with the actual classroom environment and the instruction and the engagement and learning is key.
You know, what's new this year, obviously, in this is the SLO process, but it really didn't feel, I don't believe, to teachers all that new, because they did the goal setting last year, and it was just the next step in that.
Right.
Questions? Ta-da.
Well, thank you for this presentation, which I know you recently did for curriculum. So I know the curriculum committee has thoroughly discussed this, but your enthusiasm is contagious, and I think this is really aligning with a lot of the discussion around the strategic plan, so that's exciting. Is there anybody who'd like to go?
Of course.
It's always
This is
new
the
and
chair
different
of
for
the
me.
curriculum
So
committee.
it's just like reading a book for the second time, where you see something different from a different lens. So thank you, as always, in terms of some of the exciting work going on. Question regarding professional learning communities. I'm excited about the organic nature of teachers deciding what kinds of things they need and taking that to their administrative team. How do we address things that may not necessarily come up within a teacher stakeholder group, but rather a parent stakeholder group or community members, in terms of the kinds of things we want to happen in classrooms or in school buildings? I'm thinking about the strategic plan and the number of folks that came together. How does that get taken up through the PLC model?
I think it really works actually really well with the PLC model. I mean, all of those other stakeholders, all of the parent groups, certainly the administrators, certainly the supervisors, work with the PLC leaders to include all of that. When I say things like it came from the teachers in collaboration with their principals, in collaboration with supervisors, and those principals, those supervisors, that's who are working with parents and really know what the community wants as well. Plus, the strategic plan has been the umbrella that all of this has fallen under. So those five bold statements have certainly driven a lot of the work.
Right, and I also, there's varying levels of professional learning community. So the entire faculty could be one professional learning community, and then specific grade teams or content areas is another. So that could be addressed in that big professional learning community where the administrative team or district representatives come in to facilitate conversation based on our data, which would be parent surveys or concerns or the strategic plan, and say, now how are we going to nestle this and combine it with the work that we need to do.
I want to thank you for presenting again, and one of the things everyone should know is that this is a fraction of the presentation. You guys make it look easy.
We were asked to compact it.
No, but just the amount, there's a lot of work that went into making these communities work and facilitating them and coming up with the mission facilitating their coming up with mission statements and all of that work that you've talked about before. Thank you for it. And my question has to do with scheduling and the logistics. Can you talk a little bit about what goes into scheduling this and how much time the teachers actually get?
Talk at each level. Well, I'll go first. So at the elementary, it's a little bit simpler in the sense of grade teams are already planned for the year. So we're really looking at that grade team meeting. So for the full one, it would be your faculty or a piece of your faculty meeting. And then grade teams, there's schedules at every school right now where they meet before school or after school at a common time. It really depends. But each principal has and shares with us when their fifth grade team meets all year. So they have that already planned out. We've been doing that for a number of years. So it would take the place of, instead of your third grade team meeting, it really is, it provides a little bit more framework. So having been a third grade teacher for many years ago, sometimes when we get together and we've been with children all day, we tend to talk a lot about a lot of things because we're so excited to be with grown-ups for 45 minutes. And then before you know it, the time is gone. So the professional learning gives a framework and a format to really help us keep on point and say, what's the focus of this meeting? Are we looking at particular students? Are we looking at an overall professional learning opportunity? And we follow a protocol. So we'll be looking at student work protocol or a discussion or problem-solving tool. So it really gives us that framework to use that time in a different way.
At the middle school level, it was a little simpler in that the grade level teams, what you've always heard, middle school teams, already were established. So the English, social studies, math, science teacher, they already had a time. What really became tricky at the middle schools was how do you now get in all of these content teams? So on top of those meetings, how do all the sixth grade math teachers find a time in the cycle every week to meet? I can't tell you that I understand how Gail Brown and Scott Weinstein did that, but they did. And the simplest way at the middle schools that they did it, which is really terrific, as at Welsh Valley, if you want to see PLCs, go every Thursday. Thursday is PLC day at Welsh Valley. All of their teams meet on Thursday. Bala-Cynwyd made it a little trickier for those of us who don't know all the schedules offhand. Theirs are every F day. So I have to keep referring to my little calendar to see when F day falls. But what they were able to do is schedule them all in one day, which is remarkable.
It is.
At the high school levels, we could have a whole board meeting, and it might be fascinating.
Oh, that would be exciting.
It might be fascinating to bring Scott Kilpatrick and Lindy Matsko to a board meeting and to have them explain how you build 175 collaborations into a high school schedule.
That would be like Brian Cody talking about PVOS. Okay.
So I can tell you that when Scott Kilpatrick would try to explain to the rest of us how he did this, we were lost after about 10 minutes. But I can tell you that they know how to do it. Thank you to Power School U and all the other things. Creative minds that they do. But 175 collaborations are in each of the high schools this year, and the teachers teach 5 classes and have duties and prep periods and lunch. So I can't explain it, but it's been done, and I wouldn't want to do it.
Thanks. I have a question and a comment. My question piggybacks on the question that you were just answering, so I'll start with that. And that is, how do the art, music, and PE teachers fit into the grade level PLCs on the different levels? And are they included, and do they participate in what's going on?
Sure. So at the elementary level, I can speak to a few different ones. For example, the foreign language, we've already developed a K-12. And they've been working this summer. So their meeting times are a little bit different. They're on our half-day professional learning days. We already have it scheduled for October 31st and November 4th in that way. So that's the piece for that. And then for the art and the music, this is a little bit more creative and tricky. We have to be intentional on the agenda planning to see if it's needed. So if we're talking about literacy across the curriculum and trying to have some engagement strategies or to discuss the book, then we can include them in that. But they really need to be their own. So we've actually played around with the idea of go-to meetings and Skype as well to be intentional about having all art teachers meet and discuss. But we haven't finalized that yet, but it's an excellent question.
Great question. At the secondary levels, on the interdisciplinary teams, the teachers of different subjects, the art, music, phys ed teachers are not necessarily part of those teams. They're not scheduled. In fact, that's often when the kids have those subjects, because it frees up the other teachers at that time for a meeting. What we've done, very similar to what Jerry just said, is when there is an issue or a reason or something specific or student specific, then we schedule that teacher in through the agenda. As far as content PLCs, they're just developing. So the art teachers are just beginning, although they've met forever, and I think they would balk at the sense that they're not a professional learning community, because they certainly are.
But we want to give them the protocols.
But they don't have the protocol. I think we haven't done that work that we've done with some of the other content.
Okay, I just think it's important that we make sure that we, particularly in the middle and elementary school grades, that they're part of the grade level PLCs, just because, I mean, they see the students in a completely different light, and a teacher in language arts could be struggling with a student on a particular issue, and the gym teacher can say, oh, well, they twisted their ankle Thursday, and whatever it is.
They lost a game. Right?
Yeah, I mean, so I think that communication certainly about students is great.
That's a great point.
The other piece of this is a comment that I have, and Marcy, it has to do with something that you said, that you went over to the middle school and you were asking, give me an example of something innovative you did, and they were a little hesitant and fun. To me, my biggest concern when you all presented this to us initially was, are the teachers going to feel safe to try things and to experiment and to be innovative? And sometimes it's going to fail, and sometimes it's going to be fabulous. And it sounds to me, just with that little anecdote that you chose to share, that you're trying to establish that sense of safety and security. And I think that that's a fabulous piece to this whole thing, and it will really help make it work. So thank you very much.
To the representatives we had here, and that you heard the word over and over again of ambassadors, because they've really been given that charge. So I think that they're a group of people, or a team that's flooding into the schools to also share that message.
Right, but they need to hear from the folks above.
Absolutely.
That it's okay to try something. And I would just encourage you to ask them to share the failures too, so that they know it's okay to fail. I think it's a fabulous thing.
Well, I took care of that.
How did I know, Wagner, that you were going to be on top of that?
But I have to give you credit too, because it was part of a conversation we had about are we really committed to helping teachers when some may feel that they have to follow lock and step, and how bold will we be as an administrative team? So I took stock with that, and opening day, no better guarantee from the superintendent's office, challenging teachers on that last slide to be innovative, and that my office will do everything to support that. And all I ask, and all we did ask for teachers is, we want you to share that with a colleague. But we also want you to understand that some of the greatest experiences, learning experiences, might not be what you initially thought it would be. So it was unattended, it wasn't as successful. We still want you to share that, because there's value in that learning experience. So we are hoping that though there's not a mandatory check-in, about, well, what did you try? How did you fail? We've told every single building that at the end of the year, we want you to tell your story. And part of telling your story at Kenwood or your story at Bally Kenwood or at Lower Marion High School or at Harriton is collecting those and sharing with us about what worked, what didn't, and what did you learn through that process, and how can we be of better service. So I hope that we continue to reiterate that message and not stifle people's creativity and innovation, and try to support it as best as we can.
Thank you. How do we close this down? It's giving me a hard time today.
We asked George to say something.
I just have a real quick one. I mean, we're getting all the acronyms, PVAS, PA Core, teacher evaluation. How much flexibility do we have as Lower Marion to, because what I'm hearing from you in the street is flexibility. I'm going to oversimplify it greatly. What I get from Harrisburg is not. So we have to kind of, sounds to me, if I'm hearing it right, balance flexibility we want to deliver as a district versus requirements that we have to fulfill as a PA school district. So I don't know, how do you feel that, how are we looking right now to put flexibility in given requirements we have?
Sure, that's our work with the barriers that Dr. Marseille talked about, and really identifying some of those as a leadership team. That's our work ahead when we were charged with, the work has now begun, but really looking at that. And then looking at what are the core pieces that we have to connect with at this time. And then, for example, looking at standards. Standards show us a way to say, here's what we need to do, but it's not the way we have to. It's not the process. So, being able to have conversations and have teams of teachers and teachers have conversation about how do we reach that goal in a different way. So we're not really told how to teach something. I can only speak at the elementary level. So we're not told how to teach something, but we're really given a target for the end. And so that's where the work comes in, if that makes sense.
And to piggyback that, though, to say that that is a very difficult challenge, because there are teachers who believe, actually, you are telling me how to teach it.
Right.
Right?
By what to teach. Yes.
And what to teach. And here's the proof. So we had this conversation at the opening day with staff around this idea about autonomy doesn't necessarily mean that you're void of process and procedures and outcomes. And that we have to try to find that balance between there are a set of skills that PD requires that all students show at the floor level, basic competency, for a lack of a better term. What we're trying to change is that often sometimes feel as the driving conversation. The purpose behind my work is to just get all of this across because PDE is saying that. And I challenge the notion that we can be as effective, still meet those, but still have a sense of autonomy around our work. And the challenge for the next several years is helping to frame that and giving people examples of what that really looks like. Because to be honest, there and rightfully so, in terms of the skepticism around autonomy and these compliance mandates across the date. So that is why the plan is so bold, because it is asking the community and the district to think differently about that and how to manage it. So very good point, very good question.
One thing that just came to mind right away with that, at each of the high schools, they have what they call a data or keystone team. And it's a team of administrators and teachers who plan weekly for the upcoming Keystone exams, logistically plan, but also talk about curriculum and talk about intervention and talk about supports and talk about acceleration for students. And if you go into, and I worked on one for several years, and if you go into at Lower Marion or at Harriton, they are really innovative places. The conversation those groups are having every week, although they're talking about the state mandated test, are really innovative conversation about kind of how they're reaching there and how they're getting to that kind of without stifling everything that we've always prided ourselves for in Lower Merion, which was doing things in such a creative, innovative, interesting, challenging way. So when I heard that question, I thought about they're even doing that a little differently than I bet is being done in some other places.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the presentation. Appreciate it. I think that's it for the presentations, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so then what I'm going to do now is just ask if anybody would like to speak on any item at all. It does not have to be an agenda item. Please come sign in with Ms. LaPera. Tell us your name and where you live, and you have 3 minutes.
Ruth Jenkins, 354 Worcester Road. A couple of things that I would like to speak about. First, with regard to the innovation and all of this planning, again, it's very general. I didn't hear anything specifically about a subject or what you're going to do or how you're going to, what you're going to teach and how you're going to teach it. But my main concern is the kindergarten. And since we don't have a pre-kindergarten, last year we were able to get an extended kindergarten day for students who needed a little catch-up. And I'm hoping that that will continue again. And hopefully it will be assessed so that we have an idea of whether it's working and what we can do in this master plan to make it work if the teachers need more guidance. The other thing that went out of the curriculum was the morning meeting, or it was shortened from that 30-minute meeting to a 15-minute meeting, and I don't even know if they're still having those meetings. But they were an important part of the curriculum in terms of getting students integrated into the classroom, a specific, good morning, everybody, what's special about you today, what did you do yesterday, what's going on in your house, what's going on in your neighborhood. Getting children to talk and to write and to work, and that morning meeting set the agenda. And so sometimes, you come up with these wonderful ideas and then they fall by the wayside because they just got, left in the dust. So that was one of the other thing I wanted to know about was what are the numbers, the 10-day seating numbers for students in terms of population that we have? The other thing is the buses. There has been some information coming to me about possibly taking away the 2-hour parking in our neighborhood. Right now, our neighborhood is littered with coffee cups, with cigarette boxes, with cigarette butts. And my feeling is that we need not to have more parking in our neighborhood, but we need to have more students on buses. I'd also like to just bring up Rock Hill Road again, because even though Rock Hill Road is the gateway to Lower Merion, very funny, it is not the gateway to Lower Merion right now, and it may be a temporary fix. One other thing, 2 people got hit by school buses, by parents leaving their children off over here on Owen. And one other thing, nobody pays attention to the 15-mile-an-hour zone. It's a dangerous situation.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to address one, that we have no intentions of getting rid of morning, still taking place. Have not heard that anything changing about that. In addition to some of the concerns around the specificity of the strategic plan, the strategic plan, along with the comprehensive plan, will be presented like many other plans in its entirety. We've never at any point prior to this, even the last plan, where we laid out every single step of strategies. The PDE document, the compliance document, you can't get away with filling out a statement without saying what are the strategies and what are the next steps. It won't allow you to go to the next question. So even if we did want to do that, which obviously we are not, that is not taking place. So there are strategies and activities that are part of that comprehensive plan. I want to remind you that we had a 198-page plan that had 85 strategies. We had a staff that said, we can't wrap our head around all of these. So we have to be extremely purposeful around what is our targeted area of instruction and where's our core values. So we did want to make sure that we simplify the plan, because the last thing we want to hear, and we've been hearing this and we want to support our teachers, is if this is another initiative, if this is one more thing I have to do, these are 65 strategies, and then on top of that, 18 action plans. Which one do you want me to wrestle with first? So without that, yes, there are strategies and very specific action items that will be addressed and will be presented as part of the plan. So we haven't forgot about that in that process. And morning meetings are extremely important. We value them, and they will continue. And not one of the things that will fall by the wayside anytime soon. Oh, yes, and I apologize. Extended kindergarten continues as well. We believe in the program, we've seen success, and that is moving forward.
Ms. Blunt?
Hi. My question is for the strategic plan, and you might have answered it already. I don't know, so I'm going to apologize if you did. And if there's a link you can direct me to, that would be great. I was wondering about the accountability piece for the strategic plan. Like, for instance, who is going to make sure that your goals are being met? Who's going to be that responsible party for that plan, or for pieces of that plan, like for maybe the elementary school level, if there's things, or for students, African American students, and if there's anything in the strategic plan for them, like who's going to be responsible for saying, this area we did great in, blah, 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 but this area still needs work. Like, is there going to be accountability for any of the goals that you have set for yourself within the strategic plan?
Yes, it was in the last plan where we had to identify who will be driving that conversation and who are the stakeholders who will facilitate and monitor that progress. At the end of the day, the superintendent is responsible for the accountability, but when you break it down, if you want to break it down, this is how it looked, all right? You had a particular initiative. You identified who was responsible for that. That could range anywhere between the director of elementary education, the director of secondary. Once you identify that individual, who are the individuals in the building that will manage the day-to-day of that. What we need to be more mindful of, and why we want to continue with the leadership team, is that we think that there should be a team of individuals that periodically check on the status of the plan more frequently than we've done in the past. So that was one area we saw we could improve on from the last plan, is to put in place a regular team of individuals that will help to support that, to bring everyone together to get a sense of where are we. It's been 4 months. Right? And I'm just throwing that data out there. Mm-hmm. It's been 4 months. What are the areas in which we can demonstrate success? Where are things that we need to think about differently? So we are excited that that's one addition we'd like to add that we thought could improve from the last plan.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to clarify for everyone, as well, that this was an update. This wasn't a presentation of the final plan. The final plan hasn't been finalized. So I believe the date that it goes on public display is October 20th. So it's still being worked on at this
Right.
point. So I just want to make that clear. This was an update of sort of where we were in the.
Yeah, I just wanted to make
No,
sure.
no, I
because
understand.
there's a lot of goals in that plan and a lot of, things that people want to do and, but you just also want to be mindful, like who's minding the ship and who's going to make sure that these things are followed through and these goals are met.
Absolutely. I just wanted to let everybody know because I thought people might think this was the final plan, so, okay. So is there anyone else who would like to come up and speak? Then, I guess so, sure.
I'm sorry, well, it's about the student parking issue. That came to us from another community member who asked, do you need it? So we have not made any decisions on it whatsoever, but much like your comment, Ms. Jenkin, of not getting rid of it, we have somebody else saying get rid of it in the community. So we're balancing all of this. No decisions have been made on it. We're just looking at if we're going to get rid of it, what's it entail? If we're going to keep it, what are the costs of it? That's how this there's no decision yet. I want to be clear about that. It's just a request has been come in, and we're looking at as much as we can to get to the right decision that fits the whole township together.
Okay, we can't actually hear that. I would suggest that you can have this discussion after the meeting's adjourned. So I will adjourn the meeting at this point, and we will see everyone next week. So, thank you.
Thank you.